So for my television analysis, I chose to do The Cosby Show. The Cosby Show came out during a time when there was only 4 other sitcoms with a predominantly African American cast. The show is believed to have changed the way that many believe saw African American families because the show was so well known and popular during the 1980s and so on. So there were many positive and negatives surrounding The Cosby Show, and there were many problems that people found with it when it came to how they showed a common African American family. So to help explain some of these problems, I'm going to be using 4 key terms I chose: colorblindness, cognitive dissonance, intersectionality, and whiteness. So colorblindness is defined as believing that one does not see color. This becomes a problem because it takes away the racial injustice that groups have gone through and covers them up by saying that you don't view someone by the color of their skin. So I found this quote by Chauncey DeVega, which was, "The Cosby Show was based on a distorted and inaccurate presentation of the black community, one that has enabled a pernicious type of right-wing colorblind racism to flourish." I include this quote because it sums up how many people felt The Cosby Show handled the racial identity and injustices of African Americans during the 1980s. It also showed that, brought up the point that racial profiling was never really shown in the television show, which was an accurate representation of the black community during that time, because people of color were more likely to be stopped by police because of the color of their skin. The fact that Theo was never harassed by the New York police, Cliff was never stopped by police when driving, and Claire was never racially profiled while shopping in high-end apartments, caused many people to feel like The Cosby Show decided to be colorblind to the fact that there are many problems with racial profiling going on. The next term, cognitive dissonance, when we experience and learn things that are inconsistent with our thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially relating to behavioral decision and attitude change. Some examples of this was like during the 1980s, the view of African American families was that they were lower class, had menial jobs that paid minimum wage. They also lived like in bad neighborhoods with small houses or apartments. The Cosby Show was inconsistent with this view because the Huxtables lived in a nice house in a good neighborhood. Also, Cliff was an obstetrician and Claire was a lawyer, so they both had pretty well high-paying jobs. Many felt that having both parents having high-paying jobs was inaccurate to how many African-American families lived during that time. The show caused many to believe that this was what a normal African-American family looked like, when for most it was not true. So the next term, intersectionality. Members of a range of social groups, those memberships interact, intersect, and create our own complex personal identity. People's identities are typically made up of both subordinate and dominant group memberships. So the Huxtables family is an example of intersectionality because certain aspects of their life fits in dominant and subordinate groups. They're part of the subordinate group of African American because being white is viewed as the dominant group, and they're also part of the dominant group of the upper middle class, and having both parents be a doctor and a lawyer, which are dominant groups, because being upper middle class means you have a lot of money, so means you are a dominant figure. Also, because being lawyer and doctor means you're a dominant figure when it comes to careers, because those who are in those careers are seen to be intellectual, and they're also very high-paying jobs. Last term, whiteness, is defined as historically and culturally valued above other races we associate with civilization, intellect, and leadership. So this quote by DeVega is, "The Cosby Show existed in a bubble that was outside of the day-to-day lived experiences of the vast majority of Black Americans. The events in the bubble were white fantasies of Black folks' lives." This quote showed how African American views their white fantasy, like how the Cosby Show showed white fantasies for Black individuals. Being white is connected to having money, being smart, and having a leadership position. The parents both came from successful families, went to college to pursue intellectual careers. They're a member of the upper middle class in New York, and their children grew up in a good environment. The fact that the Huxtable family was shown to have all these qualities only created an issue because it created the feeling of the Huxtable family only showing the white fantasies and not an actual representation of how African American families lived during the 1980s. So, these are all of my resources and my annotations with them.